questions you have. Anything that's on the table, ask us. We're here to answer questions for you. So I'll pass it to Nick Capiloupo, your house team.
Thank you, Henry. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming out. Just a question, how many people here are first-time parents at Newton North? Oh, wow, great, great. So we get some good stuff for you tonight just in terms of information. And so I am Nick Capiloupo, I'm the Dean of Barry House. Just in terms of our structure at North, if Henry is the principal of the entire school, then the way that we do things is we're divided into 4 houses. We're at Barry House, that's the 9th grade, and we look at the deans as kind of like the principal of that grade. So those 500 or so kids, I work with them regularly on everything on this and more in terms of, we tend to tell the students, anything that requires support, we're here to help you. We may not do all of the individual support for all of these categories, but we always know where to point you in the right direction. So we try to meet as many kids as we possibly can. I'm still getting to know your kids, and you know, our components are supporting them academically, emotionally, socially, in any way that we can. Okay, so I don't do it alone, I work along with Miss Eileen Peruzzi. If you haven't heard yet, Miss Peruzzi is our admin assistant. Ms. Winston tells me these slides are going to be sent to you, but feel free to take a picture if it's helpful in terms of our information. Ms. Peruzzi is clearly a fan favorite. Last year at graduation, she probably extended the graduation like 25 minutes because every single of the 500 kids wanted to hug her as they came up to the front of the stage. But she's really the face of our house office and someone that you'll be working with regularly if you have to reach out for any reason. Our students often come by and it's just to check in. But the way our structure is if we require any kind of absence to be excused in writing. That's just the state law. And so we reach out to her by a variety of ways, whether it's our absence reporting form, which is pretty convenient, Parent Square, email, etc. She'll then work to make sure that your student is excused and that we handle that side of things. If you ever have a student that forgets something at home, you need to drop it. If you come to the main office and sign in, they'll direct you from there. So families don't just walk through the building, you need to come to the main office, get a visitor pass, or we can just take it from there depending on what it is. And that's the number that you need. So that goes directly to the Barry House office for any questions you have. Okay, some of the slides that are on here are directly from my opening presentation to your kids. And so this is on the Barry House office where it says be a great classmate. So it's kind of our mantra, and we talk about like what are the things you can do to not only do well for yourself, but how do you support the greater good of your colleagues, your students, and your peers. And so this was the first thing we said to them, which was, as you're getting used to this place, we have this phrase, we are all timers, right? Everyone's coming from different middle schools, different backgrounds, some people from different towns, completely different experiences. And now you walk in here, and at the end of the day, you get a Newton North t-shirt, and we say, like, we are now all timers. And the idea with that is we all represent the same place, but we all have different needs. So we ask them to try to meet as many new people as they can, learn our routines. Principal Turner brought up club day, like pursuing our passions. And then also a big piece, and Ms. Fedorsis will touch upon this, is like finding your support system, whatever that may be. Okay, some of the nuts and bolts of this, okay? We are a school that has open campus at Newton North, all right? That is not the case for 9th graders. So there is no open campus for 9th graders. They cannot leave the building during the school day, and they do not have freeze. So our process right now is that if a student's teacher is out, they report to the cafeteria, they take attendance. We're working with our library to open up the library at certain times during lunch where it gets a little bit crowded so they can get work done. But students do not have freeze. I would say at a minimal number of kids have tried to go off campus so far. I'm not saying we caught all of them, but we've caught some of them. And that's just part of like the testing limits and being a 9th grader, and like that we find that as like healthy risk taking that we correct and we address. But for the most part, the cafeteria is pretty jumping. We're at about 498 kids right now, and it's busy in our cafeteria every day. But if they ask you about open campus, they're never being told you can go to Newtonville. That just doesn't happen freshman year. Okay, attendance. It's a major focus for us as a district and as a school in a variety of different ways. This is the exact slide I showed the kids and that we do across the board with all of our students. And we can get into and we will get into the district policy and the number of absences and all that, but we start with this, which is our core belief that attendance is critical to both learning and school safety. We need to know where kids are, we need them to be where they're supposed to be. And the biggest piece that we try to focus on is, kids, you matter. And you need to be here because it's better for you, it's better for your classes, it's better for our community. We want you here, you're important, right? So we are flexible when we need to be, and we support that there are reasons for students to not be here, but we do feel like it's not just about meeting a certain number of classes or having a certain number of absences. It's because it's important. When you're there, the school experience is important. We want you in class, we want you part of that experience. This is kind of like the specifics around the numbers. So when at the end of each quarter, every student receives a report card, and there's 2 columns. There's one that says their academic grade, A, B, C, etc. There's another that says either Y or N. That's their attendance grade. And that's based solely on whether Aspen, which is our program, reflects a certain number of absences or not, okay? So it might say C plus Y, Y meaning they met the attendance standard. So what the district-wide policy is that a student meets the criteria if they have 5 or fewer total absences and or 2 or fewer unexcused absences. That's per class, per quarter, right? So you restart each quarter. The flip side of that is if they do not meet it, it's 6 or more total absences or 3 or more unexcused absences. It will say the grade, and then it will say N. Okay, we're going to get into a little bit more of the specifics on that in a second, but just in terms of our procedures, we ask that families reach out before 11 a.m. when they know a student is going to be out. This is important for our record keeping, for us knowing where kids are, okay? We ask that you use either Parent Square, or Google Form, or email, or handwritten, and our admin assistants work really, really hard. They put in a reason for the absence, and that's kind of important in terms of us categorizing excused versus unexcused. Go ahead, Beth. All right, this slide's a little tough for me to read, so I'll do my best here. So communicate information at dismissal if you have a student that has to leave. Stuff comes up, right? If a student is feeling unwell, first off, they should go to the nurse. Sometimes students will just say, well, I called my mom when I had lunch and I just went home. We're asking that, we want to just make sure they're safe, right? So if they go to the nurse and the nurse dismisses them, they will reach out directly to you. If it's something that's predetermined, like an appointment, we ask the student to please, the family rather, to please reach out to us and provide us a note in writing, and then we'll make sure they're dismissed at the right time, okay? Adults, you do not necessarily have to enter the building, right? You can wait outside, they'll come out to you, but we want to just make sure we have that communication ahead of time. Okay, there's a large list here, but this first slide are all the things that the district says fall under the excused absence category. So we won't go over each and every one of them, but most of it is pretty straightforward and understandable in terms of these count as excused in the eyes of the district. We're focusing on this not just to give you the information, but some of the feedback we've received from some parents coming from the middle school was this is kind of new. Not that the categorization was new, but in terms of you need to have a certain number of, you can't have too many absences or you don't earn credit for a quarter and potentially for a class. That's new, that's a change. But that's why we're trying to just make sure we communicate ahead of time, right? Next slide, please. These are the things that in the eyes of the district that are unexcused, okay? So in terms of family vacation, extended travel, right? Students aren't given immediate consequences for that. We don't treat it like a cut class, for example. However, the district does not excuse family travel as an unexcused absence. As an excused absence. So if your student is out, I've had some families reach out to me, we need to travel as a family, they'll reach out. It will go down as unexcused. We'll still come up with a plan, we'll still support them. They're not going to be given direct consequences around that. We want you to know the district does not recognize that as an excused absence. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Winston, and I'll be back for questions in a bit.
saw me running around like a crazy person. That's kind of what I do around here. We were having technical difficulties with our live stream. We've decided 9th grade night is cursed, because last year I was literally crawling on the floor under the thing trying to plug stuff in. We're up and running now, so we're good. I'm Amy Winston. I am the vice principal here at Newton North. Henry and I like to say that he is the CEO and I am the COO. I do a lot of operations around the building, including everything related to the schedule. Things like MCAS, things like communication with all of you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our schedule and some components of our schedule and the pattern of the year. Again, if the kids don't tell you anything, you might not kind of have an idea of how our schedule works. But this is a picture of what our schedule looks like. And our classes each meet 3 times per week. They meet 1 time for 65 minutes and 2 times for 75 minutes. We have our wing blocks 3 times a week for 50 minutes. We have tiger block, maybe Southwest lion block, and we have advisory on Mondays. Go ahead, Pat. So advisory on Mondays is an opportunity for your students to connect with their peers. They will most generally be with those same students for 4 years, and as much as possible they will be with the same adults for 4 years. We put 2 adults in each advisory to really support the community building that takes place. Henry and I each actually have an advisory. He has sophomores this year, I have juniors this year who we've been with. It's a really positive part of our week, and so hopefully it's a positive part of your students' week as well. It is a place where we do some curriculum. This year our 9th graders are part of a pilot of a curriculum called Wayfinder, which is some curriculum related to belonging and developing social skills. And so we're going to be continuing to use some of that curriculum with our 9th graders. It's a place where we also talk a lot about WIN and making sure that our students have made their WIN selections for the week. So WIN is what I need, and we really believe that our students should be choosing how to use this time to support themselves. Our 9th graders, the beginning of the year, we actually pre-schedule them so that they don't have to learn all of the pieces of the system all at once. But going into October, students will have that real requirement and expectation that they are making their choices every week before advisory for the week of how they're going to be using their WIN blocks. They can be doing everything from going for a swim in the pool, probably the most popular WIN at Newton North, so often the first one full, to seeing a teacher to get extra help, to meeting with some other students to talk about climate change. There are all kinds of things that happen during WIN. When students are juniors and seniors, they have the opportunity to visit with colleges who come in with admissions reps. So we really use that time in a lot of different ways. And we support your students in making choices in how they use that time, what's most important for them. Sometimes the adults in their life might help them choose. So for example, tomorrow actually is midterm comments. And one of the things that will happen is that school counselors and deans will be looking at your students' midterm comments tomorrow and over the next week. And if they see that your student needs some extra help and that a teacher has put that they're really struggling in a particular class, their school counselor might pre-schedule them to meet with that teacher for a series of weeks to get the support they need, or might encourage the student to choose to go see the teacher for a series of weeks. So we do want our kids to make choices, and we support them in making choices when they need that. And we have Tiger Block, which Henry talked a little bit about Club Day today. Tiger Block is the one time that is very flexible. All kinds of things happen during Tiger Block, from club meetings to extra help with teachers. It is also the one day that if your student doesn't have any obligations, they can leave at 2:30. But the buses and vans leave at 3:40. The dismissal is at 3:25, and buses and vans leave at 3:40, making sure that all of our students have access to everything that is happening during Lion and Tiger Block. But it is the one time that your students as freshmen, to Nick's point, this is like the one time that they have open campus and they can walk to Newtonville, because they are free. The first week of school is hilarious. They also, my name is on their schedule for tire box, so they all want to figure out where they're supposed to be with me. So Newtonville or anywhere else, doing the things that they need to do. That's like their little first taste of freedom, of having an opportunity to choose to meet with teachers, choose to go to clubs, choose to hang out on Main Street, choose to go outside. All of those different pieces are available to them. So I talked a little bit about the fact that tomorrow is midterm comments. Please know that teachers are not required to record midterm comments unless your student is struggling. So don't panic if there's nothing there. That's generally a good sign. And if you really want to check in with a teacher because you want to know more information, you are always welcome to reach out to them. You will also see the N's and the Y's that Nick explained already for where they're at right now in the quarter. So are they meeting the attendance standard or not? We publish midterm comments each quarter. We publish report cards each quarter. So 8 times a year, you get that information on how your student is doing. And communication. So hopefully you've been getting my Winston Weekly updates on the weekends. Lately they've been coming out on Sundays. It all depends on my life as to whether they come out on Saturdays or Sundays, but they've been coming out on Sundays. You will get communications from Henry less frequently, but usually more importantly or more urgently. You will get grade level specific information from the Berry House. And then like tomorrow when I post midterm comments, you'll get a message telling you how to access them and what information is there. My last slide, my favorite thing, Parent Square. Parent Square, we are now in our second full year of Parent Square. We were actually the school that piloted Parent Square the prior year, so we've been deep in it for a while. Parent Square, Student Square, it's all the same. Your students have a lot of control over how they receive their communication, text, email, or app alerts. You have a lot of control over how you receive information, text, email, app alerts. And you can control the information per school and per district. So like a hint, you can have different settings for different schools. You can have different settings for the district level communication if you wish, to decide how you want to receive different information. Does that make sense? So if you go into Parent Square, you can adjust your settings. I might have my district communication set one way, my North communication set a different way, and you have control over that. We also use Parent Square for a lot of our automated messages, so you do receive automated messages if your student is marked absent from class and you haven't yet reported it. So that's something that you get, again, as a text and or email and or voicemail. Some parents have said, oh my God, why am I getting this message like 3 ways? That's because it's a safety concern, right? If your student is not here and we don't know where they are, we need to make sure we reach you. So the way the system works is it waterfalls. If it doesn't reach you one way, it keeps going until you get a phone call. So that's why you get multiple communications for each parent or guardian. And I think that's it. The other thing about Parent Square to know is that their help is excellent. So if you have questions, you can go to the question mark and you get excellent help. And the search function is better than searching for it in your email. If you know, like, Amy sent that, but I don't know when she sent it. I've had people lately asking me about pictures, school pictures. Go into Parent Square and search for school pictures and you'll find the information way faster than if you search for it in your email. You're also always welcome to send me an email and I'll send you the info, but the search functions in Parent Square are much better.
Okay. All right, so I'm actually going to stay here at the podium. Yeah, I'll do this too. So hi, welcome. All right, so my name is Beth Swiderskis, and I am the counseling department chair here at New York High School. So glad to be here with you tonight. Thank you for coming out. I know it's a really busy time in everybody's lives. Just want to say that the class of 2029, they're killing it. They're doing a great job. And that's a testament to all of you. From huge class assemblies, you can hear a pin drop. I talk to the counselors all the time, like, what lovely human beings. I mean, they're really making an incredible impression already in only, what, week 3? Or like we're not even like that far in. So, hats off to you. And we just really, really enjoy, we're gonna continue to see their progress as they go through these next 4 years at New North High School, and it will go in a blink. I told them, as they're all sitting out here at their assembly first week they were here, it will go in a blink. So take every opportunity that they have to make their experience what they need it to be for them. And then when they go off, we're gonna pull each other on the back and say, what a great job everybody did. So the thing is, this is a large place to navigate. There's a lot of things going on. I'd be remiss if I'd say it's not stressful. At times it can be very stressful. The world is stressful. There's a lot of things going on, right? We're in the big leagues here. We talk about now it's credits earning, because credits towards graduation. So things are stepping up for them. That's why we also want to make sure that they have a lot of support. So with this budding independence will also come that responsibility, but we want to make sure that they have the support that they're going to get for all 4 years. And one of those supports is their school counselor that they will have for all those 4 years. We're working incredibly close with our dean, with Amy and Henry, teachers, like everybody. We're pretty visible, and there's never a question that's not worth asking. That's what we also told the students. I'm telling you, if you're like, I'm not sure about this, check in with us. Now, if some of you went to back to school night and may have gone into the small groups when you had your counselors present, unfortunately I wasn't able to be there that evening, so if you're here tonight, if you're one of mine, hello, sorry about that. And some of this may be a little redundant, but we also find like repeating some things is not that bad, right? We want to hear a couple things, especially since you're getting a lot of information as we onboard all of you as well into what it's to be like as a community member at New North. So a school council perspective, confidentiality is a priority. We want our students to start to trust us, to have this really honest, open communication. But I need you to know that counselors have the judgment in order to reach out when we feel that there is something that we need to share with a caregiver. A lot of times students are like, oh, I said this and all this, are you sure you're not going to tell anybody? We can't necessarily promise that. So we want to make sure that what is being communicated, we're very up in front with them to say most things are absolutely going, let us know how you're feeling, let us know what you're doing, what decisions you're making, what's happening, which is great. But please know that we will reach out when we feel like there is that moment. It's like, you know what? I think we better share this, with your parent or your guardian. And they're like, yeah, you're probably right. We do a myriad of things. We work on their schedules. We provide social emotional support, as you can see some of this list. Anytime that they're getting into peer, kind of awkwardness, or they want to start something, and we're like, well, why don't I bring you over here for, your first time? If there's academic support that they need regarding all the different types of interventions and support we have, and I'll go into that in a little bit. If they're looking for a summer job, internship, things like that, we can have lists and talk about that with them. And then, of course, thinking about what they want to do when they leave New North is that future planning. We have seminars. So again, if you saw this, sorry it's redundant. So we work in small groups with the school counselor, with our students, and our freshman seminars are coming up next week, and they're in WIN blocks. So there will be times when WIN blocks will be mandatory. Students can be locked into a WIN block. It literally has a little lock on it, and a student can't change that. So when we want to see them at certain times for WIN, that's when they're going to come. And we're really excited, and what we do is, here's an opportunity, they're going to meet who we are, if they haven't already. We're going to tell them how to access us. Counselors are all over this building. Remember I said it's pretty big? All right? We don't have all 13 of us in one kind of area. Believe me that. Can you imagine that? So there's pods of counselors all over the building. So we tell students where we are, how to access us. A lot of times we use a Google Calendar and an appointment link. You want to meet with us? Boom, do that. It's a fantastic way that they do it. Also, if they're looking for us, there are boards on our doors. You can slip a note under the door. Just let us know that they're looking for us. So sometimes the student may say like, they're never there. Okay, sorry, there are times that we may be in meetings and things like that. But if we don't know they're looking for us, we won't know to look for them. So that's just kind of, big message going on that. We also go over the different types of things we do, and we offer the social emotional learning support as well as academic. And then in the spring, we have another set of seminars. This is when we go over graduation requirements, what they need to get out of here. Their progress toward graduation, their individual building blocks of their transcripts. Course registration for sophomore year, and then we're going to introduce them to a program called SCORE, which is Career in College Planning. They'll get an account, and they can do some exploration as they go into that sophomore year. Okay, this is just a sample of the types of interventions. Now, MTSS system, multi-tiered system of support. And based on how a student is doing academically, social, emotionally, we're going to identify them and we're going to reach out and say, we really recommend that you do this, that, and the other thing, okay? And we will partner with you about providing, like, what are these types of things that we think would be good for your children to get involved in and get support with. So even right off the bat, freshman seminar, getting to know trusted adults in this building. The win blocks that we mentioned a lot. I like to advertise, I have tea parties, and a lot of kids like to go to those. I literally have a tea kettle, I have tea, they come, they talk, it's like, they say a lot over tea. I'm just saying, it's a lot of fun. The tiger blocks, and then some of our tiered interventions. There's thing called peer tutoring. Student is struggling in a particular subject, they need a little bit more, they've gone to win. Oh, and we have some upperclassmen who are great tutors, and they can be signed up to have a peer tutoring, and that is a really wonderful process that starts to unfold a little bit like a month or so, like, right, in October-ish. A guided study, the student can be recommended to say, you know what, there's a couple of classes that are just like not going so well as I'm getting, you know, my footing in here, and there's a teacher who has, in that study, that can kind of help organize and say, what do you need to do, that kind of thing. It's a little light supervision that way. Executive functioning, that's the EF, that's what we call it around here, executive functioning, who doesn't have issues with that? So there also could be a study that they're going to learn different strategies from different modules, and that also can then be very good as they learn these skills in order to progress through their potential. Attendance monitoring. Counselors, again, work so closely, we're looking at how many absences a student has, and we're going to reach out. We're going to say, where were you? So if we know that you're sick, that's great, but do you need help making up the work? Because that can be really daunting, depending on how many days the student misses class. Tiger Trails, it's a social emotional group. A lot of kids are like, oh no, not a group. It's fantastic. It's like 8-9 weeks. It's led by two wonderful, lightweight pairs of whether it's adjustment counselors, school psychologists. It's a curriculum that's followed. It's not heavy, deep, and they're like sitting prostrate on a couch and like talking about all the demons in their life. It's really about the skills that they can take when they are feeling stressed or a bit anxious, and what can they pull from their toolbox to continue to manage and navigate in school. And then there are some screeners. Amy had mentioned Wayfinder. Our 9th graders are going to get SOS, which is signs of suicide, another screener. A Wayfinder assessment, and later on in the year, SABRES, which is a universal screener. We want to know that our kids are okay, okay? And I also tell them, do not suffer in silence. We take mental health very seriously, and we want to make sure that they're getting their needs met in order to break the barriers open so that they can learn and achieve at their fullest potential. And then, I am back to Dr. Turner.
So before we open up to your questions, I would just say that what I think sets Newton North apart is that there are a lot of schools with a lot of great academics, and I am very proud of the academics in our school and the offerings we have. But choice is one of the great things about North. It's our electives program, our career and technical education program, and it's our extracurriculars. The research says that students who are more involved in their school perform better academically. Their mental health is healthier. And so my challenge to students from day one is to find something that they're going to get involved in. And now we have some students who are over-involved, and so we have those conversations. But those are better conversations than the student who is not involved in anything and is feeling that they don't have any connections. This is a special place. There's a lot to really dive into with this place. One of the, I would say, perks of the job is I get to travel on one of our exchanges every year for a few days just to get the experience and to do some diplomacy. We are one of the few schools that offers not only just one exchange, but multiple exchanges. Whether it's our language exchanges, such as Italian in Florence, or Spanish and going to Burgos this year, our Chinese exchange, which is 3 months in the spring, and our Nigeria and Prague trip, which are in the summer. Those are things that really set this school apart, and so we want students to get exposure to it. And something that you may have heard at 8th grade night that is really important is that high school is not just about developing your expertise. It's about finding your joy, finding something you're interested in. And so, yes, we have students who have been playing club soccer their entire lives. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't go out for the soccer team, or they learn how to play soccer. We have students who have been playing musical instruments their entire life, and we have classes for them, but we also have classes for students who have never picked up an instrument before. And we want them to be a part of, to learn the joys. This high school is about learning new things. It's not about becoming just an expert on one thing. And what we have seen from our feedback from colleges is that more and more colleges are becoming more specialized. They're getting into their majors sooner. They're having set curriculum sooner. The opportunity for choice is becoming more scarce at the post-secondary level. And so this could be the last opportunity. They get to really choose something that they have they will not use professionally in their life. And secondly is that we do want to encourage their independence. And I think extracurriculars are a way to do that, but also our open campus is another way to do that. That's why open campus has been around for a very long time. But as Nick said, is that if you see them in Newtonville, and they're a 9th grader, you call us, we're probably going to tell you, we'll tell them to come to school, right? And what colleges tell us is that, and what our alumni tell us, is that they have been better prepared for time management and for responsibility when they are in college than many of their classmates who are in schools that have much more rigid rules, much more rigid expectations in terms of where they need to be at every minute of the day. So students who do get to determine, like, oh, I'm going to push the boundaries, like there is a natural consequence and there's a school consequence, but a lot of that learning does help them down the road, we believe. But also all the extracurriculars also help them post-secondary. So I would just really encourage you to challenge them that it's good for their wellness to be involved in this great school, and it's good for their future as well. So with that, I'm going to pass the microphone to you. I'll walk around. I can probably answer some questions, but our experts are here to answer your questions. As I said, the purpose of tonight is we know you've been here a month now, and so maybe you have some questions to ask us. So we'll go around. Who wants to ask the first question?
Henry, as you walk around to whoever has the first question, I'm going to read some questions from our friends at home. So, quick questions. Where will midterm comments be posted? Midterm comments and report cards are posted to Aspen as our transcripts eventually. So you'll be logging into Aspen at some point tomorrow when I let you know that things are posted. And we will be sending out the slides with all the information, as Nick said. One question about when, if a teacher or an administrator or a counselor schedules a student into WIN, is the student notified? So yes, our general expectation is that there's a conversation between a teacher and a student, or a counselor who's supporting a student, and we tell students it is their responsibility every day that WIN meets to log into MyFlex Learning, which is the system we use for WIN, and check before WIN as to where they're supposed to be. Because sometimes things change last minute. Student is scheduled to meet with Ms. Winston, and then Ms. Winston last minute is out sick. We actually move the student somewhere else. They need to know where they're going to go. So it's a both and. We ask for adults in the building to talk to kids when they are scheduling kids into WinBox, and we expect students to check every day that we have WIN to know where they're going to go.
All right, we have a question here.
Right there. The students seem all excited about the student government election coming up. Can you fill us in on the various roles and what's involved?
Yeah, we have a lot of students who came by who filled out a form, and I'm hearing like, hey, I heard that there's this and there's that, so that's fun. Yeah, so we have our elections in the middle of the month. It's like, there's a few different parts to it. First, next week during Tiger, we're going to meet to go over with all the kids, like, these are all the roles, these are the expectations. We went from, we now have a president, and then we have several vice presidents that all work together. And so we also have things like our SFA, our Student Faculty Administration. So there's a number of different ways for kids to get involved. The first step is that they fill out the form, and they have to get a certain number of signatures. We go over the expectations. We talk about, it's not just a popularity contest. We want you to vote for people who really want to have good ideas, want to work hard. We have to tell the kids, like, it is a big responsibility. We do meet weekly. We work with the officers and our class advisors, as well as me and the dean to fundraise, to come up with ideas, to put on our class events. And so it is a lot of work, and it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of learning to it. So TBD with a little bit more information, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Well, I just want to ask, because this question has been bothering me for quite a while, because I've been wondering, because back in our own days, which many people can attest to, we are more connected to our books. You know, even when you finish from school, you still have the time to go through your textbooks and do your work and then do some reading. But I don't get to see that with my own kids. Though I try my best to support them in a little way that I can, but at the same time, I still find that disconnect with them getting connected to their books. I know most of the things are on screen now, but I just want to understand how that is being managed by the school and how we parents can also support them, because it's a new experience for everybody, and we need to be able to join through that part together. Thank you.
Thank you, I love that question. I'm sure it's all on all of our minds. So there is no doubt about it that high school is very different than when we were in high school. That was one thing to say 10 years ago when I started here, but it's very different now. And so very much appreciate your question. So it is true that children probably are not bringing home textbooks. They probably still have really big backpacks, as ninth graders have had for the last 45 years. Most of their work is on Schoology. So Schoology is the place, and what I would just say is that you have rights as parents. And so one of those rights is you get to check their Schoology accounts, right? And that is something where you can say to them, what do you have for homework? I have nothing for homework. You can, let's look up Schoology again. Let's look at Schoology again. That is something you certainly, I would encourage you to do. It's one of those things where you're, again, we don't know when they're going to need you, but this is a way where you can still absolutely be involved. They probably bring home less homework. So when I started, this was in our old schedule, the number one complaint and concern of parents was that kids were staying up to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning doing their homework, that they were overly stressed. This new schedule embeds time for students to get work done because they're very scheduled outside of school. So that win block, one of the anticipated benefits of win blocking clearly is that it's the place where students can get a lot of their homework done during win block and be with teachers to get help. And I would say that the peer tutoring is open to students at all grade levels and all curriculum levels. It's it's one of the biggest benefits of WinBlock. We have more students who are offering to tutor and more students who are looking to be tutored during WinBlocks. And so students are getting a lot more work done at school than they were at home when we were growing up. But it's certainly your right to check, right? How do they do? But also, this idea of like work on the screen is another important question. It's a real challenge that we're adapting to with AI, is like, we want your children to be good writers. I think, and I hope that's a value we all share. We want them to learn to write. We want them to learn to critically think. We don't want them to just plug a question into ChatGPT and spit out a paper. We want them to learn to struggle with writing, which is a really hard skill, particularly a young adult writing. And so a lot of teachers are moving away from laptop writing to start with. Now, for someone who struggles with handwriting like that, we certainly want to provide access for students to type, but there may be more in-class writing that's happening and writing at home. We might be doing more reading in the classroom because students are reading less outside of school. And I would say that back when we were assigning like 30 pages of reading in Macbeth, most kids were like doing it on their bed while they were listening to music. I would say many of them were doing it with a lot of depth. And so actually in-class reading actually has a lot of benefits, and actually what close reading should be, like that kind of detailed reading. So without a doubt, school is very, very different, and we are adapting sometimes because of technical changes, like AI, in how we're teaching students to write, but also our schedule is changing. I would certainly say that school is just as rigorous as it was 10 years ago. It's just different. There's a lot less memorization, a lot more deep thinking, discussion that we're expecting students. And I know that like we are, as we talk about sort of like what are the impacts of the pandemic in terms of what students missed, like we're targeting some of those areas such as close reading, such as note-taking, which is something we just did a professional development on, where when I was in middle school, I was taught how to take notes and outline, and students generally don't have that skill right now. I saw seniors in AP history classes not knowing how to actually take notes. So we just did a great workshop on how to do 2-column notes. So the trick of the 2-column notes, not to dork out on you, is to move the line over so you have one small area to write the terms or to write the idea, and then a larger section of the notes to actually do some deep thinking about it, do some processing. That's the stickiness of learning. So we just did a workshop on that, but the idea of how to explicitly teach students to take around some of these skills that we used to assume, that a lot of our teachers assumed that we just learned how to do. So we're spending more time certainly on that. So hopefully that's enough to give you sort of some context of some different things that we've been working on and we've shifted as a result.
I have an online question that I think you can answer, which is, what are we doing to support our math teachers who are piloting new curriculum in the months ahead?
Great. So you probably have seen a lot of communication from the district around curriculum reviews in our different departments. Math was the first. Math and PE Health and Wellness were the first 2 departments to go through it last year. As a result, the committee has identified 2 curricula to pilot this fall. One is Carnegie Learning, and the other one is called CPM. And I know that teachers just started, I think, last week and this week, piloting that curriculum. There's going to be a lot of input from students and from staff. One thing I actually just got to observe a math teacher today, a sophomore math teacher, and there was like some analysis around different shapes and the definitions of shapes, and there was this sort of assessment where they got to self-assess themselves. Am I prepared to be able to teach this concept, or do I kind of understand this concept, or do I have no idea? That I thought was a cool dipsticking activity that I just saw with them just jumping into a class. So I know that they're piloting it. I got to talk to the teacher a little bit about it. I think teachers are certainly really concerned to make sure that students are getting the curriculum that they want, to make sure that students are getting in their different grades. And they are interested because both curricula are really focused on sort of problem-solving skills for students, which is something we've been working on over the last 5 years. A lot of group work. Something I'll say to your question around what's different in the classroom is that our our math classrooms, you probably noticed it back to school night, they're not in rows, they're in groups. There's a lot of group work, there's a lot of deep thinking, a lot of rich thinking that's happening. So what support are they getting is the question. So they you may have noticed that math teachers were absent 2 Fridays ago. Several math teachers were absent last Friday. They were doing professional development on those pilots so they could integrate those pilots. They're going to be meeting with the superintendent, I think next Tuesday, to give some feedback about the process. There's a lot of opportunity for teachers to provide some input. And we're giving a lot of our professional Tuesday morning meetings and our half days time to the department so that teachers can adapt to the things they're being asked to do. They're being asked to do a lot right now, and a lot of it we want to make sure it has their input so they can get that feedback too. So those are a few.
We are both very invested and involved in all of these curriculum review processes, particularly math, because they were going first. I'm on the PE Health and Wellness Review Committee, and we're launching a bunch of other ones now. And so we've made sure that we're really connected with the work that's going on so that we can appropriately support our staff, make sure that they have the time and the support necessary to do the work that we're doing.
What's the current thinking on the changing understanding of the effect of having students with their phones during the day?
What's the changing in the thinking? Which is the thinking?
What's the current
Yeah.
thinking on the changing understanding? There's new data.
Yes. So what's our thinking on the latest data on research on cell phones? Okay. So so we piloted those phone pockets for about 4 years now. PTSO initiated that purchase for us, and now every classroom has them. Last year, the district, led by the school committee, did at each level created a policy for cell phones. The policy for cell phones in the high schools are that they are not allowed in classrooms, not allowed to be used in classrooms. Students must have them in the pockets when they are going to the bathroom or they're taking a break. They can't leave with their phones. And so as a result, for our school, they're not allowed during the school day on the second, third, and fourth floor where they're in classrooms. On Main Street, students can have them. And the reason why I would say the thinking, like adapting to our reality, is that because we have so many students who have open campus who are leaving, it's impossible to have the yonders as a result because of it. And we also have students who are sometimes here at 7 o'clock, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning because of sports, and sometimes leaving at 10, 11 o'clock at night because of theater. And so it's hard from a safety perspective to say that students can't have their phone at school when we know that some of them are going to be here. They will be supervised, but there will be very little supervision here. So that's the latest thinking. It was a district-wide decision, not a school-based decision. I would say that every year we have gotten better. I think we are pretty good this year in terms of teachers making sure that students are putting their phones in the pockets. It takes a few years for us to shift a culture because we have such a large staff, and I would say that we're in a pretty good place with that. You're welcome. Go ahead.
Now we face the age of AI. So students has a lot of opportunity to use AI. So I think the AI have two sides. One side may be benefit for students to learn something, but the other side, the AI also, if students use AI too to like finish the exercise or any homework, they can use it. So what's the best way to benefit from AI too, but also prevent the bad side of AI? Yeah, what's your recommendation?
Well, I don't think I have the answer. But I can tell you sort of what we're struggling with and what we're trying. So as I said, is that we want to be very transparent with students that it's very important that they learn skills like writing, and that and so we're trying to limit their decision making on just going straight to AI to produce something for them. So that's weak. It's lazy. It's not good for their development. We know students are doing it. We know college students are doing it. We know students are doing it for their college essays, and that has significant ramifications. And it's getting harder and harder to detect what is AI produced and what's not. And interestingly, the data shows us that these AI detectors, the most mistakes they make are on students whose first language is not English. Because usually it's because like the way in which they've learned English language has been about sort of like, has been sort of very formulaic, right? Which is sort of what the writing of an AI is. And so even these detectors have like some significant bias to it that actually doesn't really help. And so I would say this is like the topic of English and history teachers for sure, and our computer programming teachers, because certainly we have a shared value, and we're being challenged because we are seeing more plagiarism. We actually shifted our practice around plagiarism because a few years ago it was just an automatic 0 and we didn't make it up, and now it's really hard. You saw maybe in Duxbury where students sued the school district because he was challenging that he didn't use AI, and it's like, we don't want to be fighting with your kids or fighting with you about what was produced by AI and what was not. And so our practice is that if we now have rules for writing. That is, it has to always be in a Google Doc. And we now just purchased software called Revision History, which will allow the teacher to be able to see the replay of how the student writes. And so we can see them actually typing in the Google Doc. And so if they're just cutting and pasting, then we know that they're getting it from somewhere. And so like, just that conversation, if we see a student copy and paste, we can just say to the student, you didn't follow the guidelines. And so you need to redo it. Right? If the student does that many times, then it's going to be something that's going to be referred to the dean. There will be consequences to it. But we first want to use it as a learning opportunity because there's so many students who are just seeing this as an opportunity.
Henry, could I just add one thing?
Yeah.
Sorry. What I told kids on day one is, unless a teacher specifically tells you, use this program, just don't use it. And then there doesn't have, so we're trying to help students kind of make the choice there. The other thing that is interesting that I learned, especially the first go around with my last students and juniors and seniors and stakes getting higher, is the most of our concerns related to academic honesty were not, someone looking over someone's shoulder, cheating on a test, or like trying to get the answers. It was very stressed students right before the end of the quarter, right before the end of the term, running out of time and saying, oh shoot, I need a quick solution. High achieving students who really wanted to do well. Those were the highest academic honesty cases. So we were really trying to what do you do when you're feeling that way? Who do you reach out to? How do you communicate with your family, your teachers, etc., as opposed to making that choice?
Absolutely. And so and we actually feel for the students because they're being put in really difficult situations. They're in a world where all these companies are fighting for their attention, right? And so if you downloaded the free app for Grammarly, you may have noticed that you're constantly getting these red lines when you're writing, and then there's an opportunity for you to purchase the Grammarly Plus, or the Grammarly Superior, or whatever it is, right? And that in itself, the beyond free access of Grammarly, actually reduces, it's AI writing for you, or editing for you. So they're put in really difficult situations. I will also say at the other end is that there's some really innovative ways which students are thinking about AI and how it can help their learning. My daughter, for example, for final exams, plugged in her notes and said, give me questions that I may get asked on my final exam. Give me questions that are not in these notes that my teacher may ask me for my final exam. That's hard to tell her not to use it. And that's where with someone who's really passionate about technology and education, students are always ahead of us in terms of thinking about how it can be effective. And the final piece is that the worker who knows how to use AI, is the employable worker, right? And so we want them, so we do have to find this balance of making sure that they learn how to use it, and they find the belief that we want them to be able to learn these foundational skills that you learn in high school. So I haven't solved it yet, but we are doing. But we are trying to make sure that those foundational skills. That's why they're more in the classroom as opposed to home. And also, I think we are starting to talk about what are ways in which AI can help students can use effectively with AI.
Thank you. How does the attendance standard work with kids who have chronic illnesses and laboratories that require them to be out more often for medical appointments or illness?
Thank you. What I would say in those cases, just reach out to your school counselor and myself, and we'll come up with a plan on how to support you.
We'll take a couple more questions. See one here, see one over here, and over here.
Thank you so much. So, my happy high schooler came home today and told me that if she takes an AP class and then she could do another 2 years of self-directed learning in that field. I don't know if it's too early to ask this question because I'm new to the education system here. But I just want to learn more about what does this self-directed learning in that subject. It's a course I need to do outside of the school or additional things she can learn by herself.
I can answer a little bit of Beth if you want to maybe pick it up from there. So there are no APs for 9th and 10th graders. We don't offer APs for 9th and 10th graders. And it's by design. We don't believe that 9th and 10th graders are ready to engage at college level academics yet. And we do believe that our honors courses often are more rigorous than the AP curriculum. And so there are some AP courses in physics that don't require math, that are like a college course, which is hard to think because physics classes in college require math. So the College Board has a money-making strategy. We don't subscribe to that for 9th and 10th graders. We do offer a lot of APs for juniors and seniors. And so the APs are rigorous courses. Students can take the test and they can have an opportunity to get college credit. Interestingly though, that the most competitive colleges usually do not accept AP credits for credit because they want you to take classes at their school. And so some will offer general credits for that. So that may be what she's referring to, I'm not sure. But in terms of how it impacts colleges, I know you are very far away from this, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I'll just pass it to Beth for a little bit of that.
Yeah, I think it's really about making sure that the student is, we're going to stress balance every single time they talk about their courses every single year. And it is about, it's not a race. They don't need to chase everything. It's about what they want to do as far as exploring their interests. What doesn't work, that we've seen time and time again, is when a student overreaches a little too much. And then what happens is if they say they're chasing that AP and they think that that's going to be the end all be all in that transcript and that's going to be the only way that I'm going to get into this college that I want to get into, if the grade, if the experience is not positive, that is not going to help them get into college at all either. So it is about balance. There are strengths, there are challenges, there are interests, but when they're chasing something that they feel like, oh, because other people are doing it, or this is what they're hearing, but it's not really what is right for them, that's what we really want to excavate. We want to make sure that they have what's right for them and not for somebody else or what they're hearing about within, especially our American college system. So it is about balance. Our kids do amazingly in college admissions. They really do. We have statistics every year. That being said, it is an array of types of schools. And the thing is that when they have followed what they really want and put that time and energy into the courses that are meaningful for them, because the last thing they're going to want to do is take a course that they have no interest in because they think they have to take it. And it does not work. So when they're able to achieve or access higher level classes, that's great. But with that is going to come that increase of work and independence, and some things can compromise. And they have to know what those compromises are going to be. They're not going to be able to maybe to socialize as much, and they're going to have more hours of work, more in-depth conversations about what they have to come up with, which could be exciting, but at the same time to really strike that balance. And if there's something on the outside that is not Newton North or anything like that, we actually don't accept those credits because we offer so much here. But if there's something that they choose to do on the outside and then they want to send that somewhere, that's perfectly fine. But we want to make sure they're doing what they're doing for the right reasons.
I would just lastly say to your question is that I have noticed as a high school parent is that TikTok is leading to a lot of misinformation about the college process. And my daughter is like coming up with all these like grandiose ideas about what high school, what college is like. I mean, like sororities are like the most popular thing to be like searching on TikTok, and that's how kids are choosing colleges. A lot of kids are choosing, or some kids are choosing colleges now. So like it's a lot of misinformation is coming, and so your school counselor is the person with you for all 4 years. And so they are experts in the process. They certainly can answer questions that you may have. And I'll just say that in my 20 years of education, high school education, there's no one way to get into a school. There are many ways. And so high school kids sometimes can say, this is the way, what I need to do. And I get those Instagram advertisements from like these outside consultants that say like, this is what you need to do. There are many ways to get into schools. That's here, and you have a last question.
I'm really excited about the porch, the Northside Porch events, and I wanted to host, except we think that October is Diwali for us, so it's a huge festival, and that's the first day. I'm guessing a bunch of other Indian practicing families might be out. So, yeah, just the logistics question, that's all.
I appreciate that feedback. Certainly, I think moving forward, we can certainly check into that. We certainly want it to be an inclusive event, so I appreciate you doing that. And certainly, if you have questions about hosting, thank you for saying that.
First, thank you all for being here. Appreciate this time. Curious to know, when a teacher is out, what are the expectations of the students during that time that they should be in the classroom?
Great, thank you. I will start and then I'll pass it to Nick. And so the question is for when teachers are out. So for the last 15 plus years, Newton has not supported substitutes in the high schools. I will just say that if you remember your high school substitute, it's really challenging to get an effective substitute, and we would need probably like 30 substitutes a day to cover our classes. And so the question is like, what are the expectations of the students? So for ninth graders, they are expected to be in the cafeteria. Teachers often, through Schoology, students can get the work that they need to do. It's supervised, and if they don't have work in that particular class, they certainly have work in their other classes. So they're expected to get work done. I'll pass it to Nick for other ninth grade expectations on that.
Not much to add there, just other than we are working with the library on opening up some time for kids to go to the library during that time and utilize that space as opposed to the cafeteria. It's just the logisticals we're figuring out.
We do have, to your asking a question, we do have, sometimes teachers sometimes have long-term illnesses or leaves. Like that is, so the one-day absences happen, but it's something we can work through. The longer-term absences we know can be challenging for both students and for us in making sure we're finding support. But our department chairs are always working hard to make sure you get quality substitutes in those longer-term absences. So we do have a process for that. Do students have access to their phones? They do have access to their phones because it's on the first floor. In the cafeteria. Yes, we're very much academic. So, I mean, we more and more have increased the number of students getting the courses that they're choosing so that they get a full schedule. We've also prioritized financially of reducing class size so students have access. In my time here, which has been 10 years, we have more students taking more rigorous classes than they did prior. We have, I don't know, probably 10 more AP classes and several hundred more students taking APs since I've been here. So without a doubt, like academics are rigorous. I would say what sets us apart from other schools that have also very rigorous academics. And I think is that we have amazing teachers, one, who are committed to kids, and our electives are a special part of our school. We certainly want students taking the host of electives that we offer. We take our electives very seriously as well. So it's not that we're reducing the importance of academics. We also see that our electives and the choice is an important part, and a unique part that a lot of families, if they don't know, they will not learn about. We do have levels. So we have, yes, we have levels in 9th grade. We have levels in math. We have levels in science, ACP, and CP.
I was gonna say, we have
No honors.
9th grade, there's no honors, but there's ACP and CP in all the subject areas in the 9th grade. So all the 9th grade courses are leveled.
And the honors in science hasn't been around for.
No, we've never had any honors in 9th grade other than math. We have honors in math in 9th grade, and I've been here 27 years. Nothing else in the 9th grade. It's exactly the same as it's been for 27 years in the 9th grade. So.
All right. For questions, for other questions, our coffee is certainly an opportunity to chat more, and we're here to chat. Thanks. Great to see you all. All right. Thank you.